Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.
On News Hour tonight, troops rescue 24 kidnapped victims in Zamfara, kill 4 armed bandits. Traders say insecurity responsible for tomato scarcity and price hike. And father of 25-year-old girl locked up in Jigawa for 5 years, released on bail. And on the foreign scene, Kenyan police fired tear gas to stop protesters over tax hikes. Many thanks for joining us on the News Hour. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. We start with regards to developments in Zamfara, where operatives of Operation Hadarin Daji have rescued 24 victims in Zamfara state. The troops, acting on intelligence report on the bandit hideout, stormed Kabugu Lumber Forest, where kidnapped victims were concentrated, and succeeded in rescuing 24 of the victims. Heavy exchange of gunfire between the bandits and the Nigerian army troops ensued for hours before the bandits were subdued and they fled, abandoning the victims in some isolated buildings. 4 of the armed bandits were killed during the gunfire exchange. The rescued victims include 9 women, 14 men, and 1 infant. All of the rescued were handed over to the appropriate authorities to reunite them with their families.
Troops
and from Zamfara State, Daily Trust correspondent Shil Huyari brings us up to speed.
Including a child. Troops of Operation Hadran Daji on Friday rescued 24 kidnapped victims, including a child at Kabuga Lamba, a deserted village in Maru local government area of Zamfara State. The victims have spent weeks in captivity and have developed some form of illnesses. The rescued kidnapped victims, including 9 women and 14 men, have been evacuated by the security operatives and are currently receiving medical attention before they are reunited with their families. The rescue of the victims came barely 10 days after 21 kidnapped victims were rescued in a similar operation in the state. In recent days, the troops have intensified their onslaught against armed criminals in the state. Last week, a notorious armed criminal identified as Dogo Gudali killed himself and 4 others when he was trying to plant an improvised explosive device against the advancing troops.
Well, in other security news, former Zamfara State Governor Ahmad Sani Yerima says his recent recommendation of dialogue with bandits to President Bola Tinubu was born out of a genuine desire to see the end of banditry ravaging the northwestern part of the country. He said this in an exclusive interview with Noel Samson on Friday.
You see, what I presented was not properly captured. People did not consider my initial presentation. I said the military have the capacity and the resources and the ability to fight these bandits. But I'm proposing dialogue because of the collateral damages that will have been achieved if they go all out to fight them. Look at what happened in Niger Delta. I gave it as an example. President Erdogan negotiated with the militants and we had a lasting peace. So I believe that while using carrot and stick approach, while the military are preparing, while they are going all out to fight them, those repentant bandits should be called open and discuss with them and bring them on board, because major problems that are affecting, that brought about this banditry are 2. 1, ignorance, because most of them are illiterate, and 2, poverty, and most of them have nothing to do. So they are easily recruiting more people, and the more we wait, the more the problem will continue. For how long have military been fighting them now? More than 20 years. You see? So we have to, while using the military approach, we still have to negotiate to make sure that those who repent will be able to convince others and then federal government has to come up with robust program of rehabilitation, resettlement, and making sure that they create jobs opportunity. Locally, Mr. President has what we call renewed hope agenda. And that document, if you go through it, you find that he has an ambition, very big ambition, to make sure that every Nigerian, as much as possible, have something doing. Education sector will be given very serious attention, and agriculture will be given attention. Small and medium scale entrepreneurs will have opportunity to be busy.
Now, as the price of tomato continues to skyrocket in the market, lack of technology, weather condition, and inadequate knowledge on new farm techniques, especially by peasant farmers, are some of the factors undermining tomato production in Nigeria. However, some farmers in rural communities of Birniyaro in Igabi local government area of Kaduna State attribute the high cost of tomato to the growing insecurity bedeviling their communities, which is hindering access to their farmlands. Trust TV's Bello Musa gives us a situation report.
Nigerians are said to be consuming 2.3 million tons of tomatoes annually. However, the recent scarcity of the produce made the price of a basket of tomato to skyrocket in the market. Though the price has reduced significantly, yet the price is still high in the Kaduna metropolis, with the basket of UTC sold at 38,000 naira, while acre, as they call it, is still sold at 43,000 naira per basket.
The price of tomatoes skyrocketed because we sold a basket of tomatoes at the rate of 30 to 50,000 naira, depending on the species of the tomato, but it is beginning to come down now.
It's located at the agrarian community of Birniyaro, and it is used to be a beehive of activities, with farmers bringing their tomatoes to sell to traders for onward distribution to different parts of the country. However, the scarcity and the cost of the tomatoes makes the market very scanty, and the farmers are attributing it to disease on the farm and insecurity in the area.
We hardly get up to 1 million naira from the tomatoes after spending 2 to 3 million naira in the farm due to diseases during the rainy season. We can't go to farm due to insecurity. We had to abandon our farm and come to this place near the road. But I can't grow much crops here because of the small size of the land.
Omotosho Abiodun is an agronomist in the Department of Agriculture in Kaduna Polytechnic. He says excessive rainfall and diseases are responsible for the scarcity of tomatoes as they affect production.
High intensity rainfall can abort the flower, cause flower abortion, so there will be no fruit. Tomato required a well-drained soil, and during the rainy season, the soil, they are flooded. Another thing is that during the rainy season, there are so many infestation of fungi diseases. You know, the rot, the wilt, the virus, and all these diseases, they affect it, you know. And the one that I'm particularly interested in is this pest called Avis. Yes, Avis is supposed to be less during the rainy season, but these days there are so many that, and they are carriers of virus.
Omotosho allays the fears of farmers who recorded damages during the rainy season, as he assures that they can produce large tomatoes in the rainy season by using greenhouse technology, which can address the scarcity of the product in the rainy season.
Weeds. There are so many weeds as a result of the water being abundant. Weeds comes up and compete with your tomato. So rainy season is not quite a favorable place, except you are using the greenhouse, where you can control all these factors. You know, if you are using greenhouse, or you can control the coming in of some of these pests, you can control the amount of water you are giving in, you can control so many, you can even control the soil, because you know the soil that you put in the greenhouse. You know, so because of these few things, you have limited tomato and the technology.
The large percentage of the tomatoes that Nigerians are consuming is coming from rural communities. For an improved production of tomatoes, the farmers in Birnin-Yaro are therefore appealing to government to provide them with modern methods of farming and also stop kidnappers and other criminal elements hindering them from accessing their farms. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
Well, Damilola Sanusi is Operations Manager, Generative Crop Production at International Institute of Agriculture in Ibadan, and he speaks on the seasonal tomato scarcity.
What I can say about the tomato farming is for the IITA Business Incubation Platform, what we do is we do multi-locational trials for international vegetable companies to test their varieties in Nigeria in different locations, especially for tomato, cucumber, and other vegetables. So far so good. I do not have much knowledge on tomato, but what I know about why tomato is always scarce during the rainy season is it's always affected by pests and diseases, and during this time, farmers find it so difficult to maintain their farm because of high cost of buying insecticides, fungicides to spray on the field, and this makes tomato farming difficult, especially during the rainy season. But some farmers survive this by doing greenhouse production. So for the greenhouse production, it's always safer, especially during the rainy season, because it's guided, it's guided in the greenhouse, whereby pests and diseases are always limited. It's not that they don't also experience it, but it's always limited. But however, from our experience so far, we noticed that there are some varieties also that you can use during the rainy season. It's specifically for the rainy season period, and this variety are always tolerant to some of the diseases and also resistant to some of these diseases. So this is all I can say, particularly about why tomato is always difficult to get during the rainy season. And from the trials we've conducted, there are some good tomatoes and that people could plant. There are seeds the farmers should have, which seed they could use for which varieties they could use for rainy season and which varieties they could use for the dry season. All these, I believe, the agro dealers could give answers by selling the particular varieties that are good for this season to them. So that's all I can say for now about the tomato scarcity.
Still staying with the Nigerian economy, according to the Agricultural Commodities Association of Nigeria, policies and intervention schemes executed by the federal government have failed to transform Nigeria's agriculture sector. Nigeria, which is home to several crops and livestock, has struggled to unlock the full potential and economic contributions of the agriculture sector. Trust TV's correspondent Chamung Dabeng reports that the association is calling on the federal government to give urgent attention to the underperforming sector.
Nigeria relies on $10 billion of imports to meet its food and agricultural production shortfalls. From 2016 to 2021, Nigeria spent 6.47 trillion naira importing agricultural commodities like wheat, sugar, fish, milk, amongst others. This is despite the country having an arable land area of 34 million hectares, where only 44% is being utilized. Nigeria has in the past introduced several intervention schemes, according to the Agricultural Commodities Association, has failed to have the desired effect.
The Anchor Borers program failed. Majority of the intervention programs for the federal agricultural agencies have not succeeded. Commercial banks, more than 70 to 80% of agricultural loans in their books have failed. Private lending to agriculture is failing. The reason they are failing is because we are not lending to agriculture properly. It's because we are not understanding agriculture properly. Agriculture are long-term projects. It takes time for agriculture to stabilize, to become productive and to work. If you want agriculture to work in rural Nigeria, what do? You build rural infrastructure. You support rural farmers. You provide machinery. You provide sheep funds. How is it that farmers will be assessing loans at anywhere from 25 to 30%? It's not workable. And then you are expected to pay back that loan within a period of 1 year.
Despite Nigeria's vast potential in the agri sector, the country faces several challenges, such as insecurity, natural disasters, and inflation, which has affected its food security. According to both the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, and the Food Agriculture Organization, FAO, 25 million Nigerians are at risk of facing food insecurity. President of Maize Association of Nigeria, MAN, Dr. Bello Abubakar, delves into the issue.
The only thing that we can do now is to pay our attention and focus this sector of agriculture truly, so that we can provide all the necessary needs, all the necessary support for the farmers to go back farm to produce. Because without production, there will be no food. And we must produce what you are eating, as how our former president said. Because without this production, there will be a problem. So the only solution is for all right from the government, our associations and other stakeholders to do the needful, to do what is right. That is to give the maximum support to the farmers to produce.
According to the association, there is a need to select leaders of the agricultural sector amongst professional farmers who are well versed in the processes, system, and are fully aware of the challenges of the sector, rather than politicizing the positions. Chamun Dabeng, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Well, President Bola Tinubu has formally requested the House of Representatives to confirm the newly appointed service chiefs in the country. The Speaker of the House, Abbas Tajuddin, read the President's letter to request during the opening of the House plenary session on Thursday. The letter of the President seeking the confirmation of the service chiefs comes just 2 weeks after their appointment on June 19th. Tinubu removed the former service chiefs and appointed new ones, whom he directed to resume with immediate effect 3 weeks after his inauguration. The service chiefs waiting for approval from the legislative arm of government are Nuri Badu as the new National Security Advisor, Major General CG Musa as the Chief of Defense Staff, and Major General T.A. Lagbaja as the Chief of Army Staff. Rear Admiral E.A. Ogala as the Chief of Naval Staff, Air Vice Marshal H.B. Abubakar as the Chief of Air Staff, and Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetokun as the Acting Inspector General of Police, and Major General Ekpa Odiande as the Chief of Defense Intelligence. President Tinubu also appointed Adeni Adewale as the Acting Controller General of the Nigeria Customs. In Taraba State, Governor Abu Kefas has relaxed the 24-hour curfew imposed on Karim Town and its environs in the wake of renewed hostilities between Karimjo and Wurukum ethnic groups in Karim Lamido local government area of Taraba State. The development followed dialogue and engagement with key players of the feuding communities in Karim Lamido, which brought about peace in the area. The press secretary to the governor, Yusuf Sanda, says in a statement that the curfew now takes effect from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. daily instead of the 24 hours that the governor gave as an order earlier. He said it was noticed that the tension has doused in the area and hence the need to relax the curfew. The statement further stated that the curfew was relaxed by 12 hours as a result of peace that has returned to the area following dialogue initiated by the governor between the two warring communities. And in Delta State, the police command has paraded a 25-year-old undergraduate who allegedly made away with a vehicle worth 60 million naira from a car stand in Abuja. The suspect confessed that he sped off under the guise of a test drive, and the Delta State Police Command Public Relations Officer, Bright Edafe, explains that the suspect tricked the car dealer and zoomed off with the car to Delta State, his state of origin.
Vehicle, he absconded with the vehicle. It was a trending news and we've been on his trail. During subsequent intelligence report and intelligence-led investigation, we discovered that he was currently in Delta State. The complainant was advised to proceed to Delta State and make an official complaint, which he did precisely on the 3rd of July, 2023. And I want to tell you that the CP, in his own wisdom, detailed the command decoy squad headed by ASP Julius Robinson to immediately embark on that investigation. On that same day, 3rd July 2023, the vehicle was recovered, but then the suspect was still at large.
So he set up an appointment that I should come for inspection of the car. So I went to see him. So when I saw the car, I told him the car wasn't what he actually mentioned to me earlier. So he asked me to make an offer. So I made an offer of 30 million to him. So he told me to just hold on a minute, that I should shut my mouth and wait for us to test drive the car. Then I will hear the sound of the car to find out that the car is actually what I'm thinking.
Now to something lighthearted, social media users are impressed with the emergence of Threads, a new platform that gives users opportunity to share ideas and information. Our correspondent Noel Sampson speaks to some Abuja residents on the launch of the new app, which has already garnered over 70 million subscribers. His report.
Threads is designed as a platform for real-time conversations and sharing of ideas. Threads aims to provide users with a similar experience to Twitter, reaching 55 million users already just after its launch on Thursday. Social media users in Abuja have different notions concerning the new app. While some do not know about the existence of a new app, others are skeptical about joining the app, even though they see it as a competition to Twitter.
I think Mark is here to compete. Mark is here to compete, and he made a very smart move going for ex-Twitter's employees. That was a very smart move. I never expected it. I heard that we are going to have a fight, Elon and Mark Zuckerberg. We are thinking it was a physical fight. I didn't know that Mark had another thing in mind. Surprisingly, it garnered about 1 million users, yes, then about 3.8 million tweets on Twitter concerning Thread. So if Thread is trending on Twitter, man, I think he's very competitive.
I don't think I'm going to be jumping on it so soon. So I need to observe and see. And you know what we call this speculation that is going on with the symbol like 666. So you know those people. Let me put them. Those people. They normally hide their agendas in one of all those things we see on our everyday life. So
yeah, it's better we have options when it comes to social media. You don't allow just a single person to monopolize the whole thing, so that when a particular one is not doing better, you have the option of going for the other one. Yes, it's a good one. It's a good one.
I came across it yesterday. I was reading over it on the internet. Then I saw something like something that has to do with Mark Zuckerberg or something like that, understand? Then the likes of, was it Twitter owner, understand, trying to accuse him of having stolen their trademark or something like that. I have not really gotten the real gist.
Social media facilitates quick information dissemination. More than 4.7 billion people use social media in the world. Well, Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission says the issue of legal jurisdiction outside Nigeria is a major challenge in the fight against cybercrimes. Speakers at a one-day training exercise organized by the EFCC Ilorin Zone for print and electronic media in Kwara State made this submission. Here's the report.
The training attracted working journalists in print and electronic media based in Kwara State. The acting chairman of the EFCC, Abdul Karim Chukul, says the task of keeping tabs on corrupt practices has been impressive over the years. Falling victims to corrupt practices, he added, is painful, calling for more collaborative efforts with journalists in reporting and setting agenda against corrupt practices.
Economic and financial crime remain a threat to our individual and corporate progress. It is not only by being a victim of these crimes that we suffer loss. We also suffer limitation when our neighbors, our colleagues, institution, and nation fall prey to them.
In a paper titled New Trends in Cybercrime, a resource person, Alex Ocheme, says the challenge confronting the Commission agency in getting cooperation and support from other countries in the fight against cybercrime is the different legal system countries operate.
Even amongst our neighbors in Africa, they have issues of laws or passage of laws. As I speak, in the West African region, not all the countries have passed Cybercrime Act in their own jurisdiction. So in the event that monies from cybercrime move to a jurisdiction they don't have that law, it's not a crime in their place. Somebody just dashed the money.
EFCC head of media, Wilson Uwujaren, cautions people on cash transaction above certain limits without passing through financial institutions.
If you want to buy a car for 6 million, for instance, you need to pay through the bank, through your bank account, so that transaction can be traced. But when you carry cash to go and give the car dealer, there is no trace of that kind of transaction. If you are laundering money, the commission will not be able to trace those transactions.
The Ilorin Zone of the EFCC laments that cybercrime is common among youths in Kwara State, calling for collaborative efforts between parents and guardians to stem the tide of cybercrime.
Now, the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, on Friday has changed the leadership of the Interpol National Crime Bureau Force Criminal Investigations Department at the Force headquarters in Abuja. The development, according to the police, became imperative in order to strengthen the fight against transnational crime. The spokesperson of the police, CSP Olumuyiwa Adejobi, told journalists in Abuja that the acting Inspector General of Police ordered the deployment of Bankole Sikiru, one of the newly promoted Assistant Inspector General of Police, to head the department. Adejobi noted that the police chief has urged the senior police officer to prioritize collaboration and cooperation with international law enforcement agencies and partners in combating transnational crime. He also urged Bankole to stay up to date on emerging global security threats and trends while adapting new strategies accordingly. The new head of the Interpol NCB AIG, Bankole, was appointed into the Nigeria Police Force as a cadet assistant superintendent of police in 1990. The senior police officer, who holds a degree in law and was called to bar, has attended several leadership and strategic courses within and outside Nigeria, including logistics officer course in Ghana. He also at a time attended UNODC and Interpol Conference on Drug Trafficking in Spain, a workshop on Africa border security in South Africa, an international conference on drug trafficking in Taiwan, and Interpol General Assembly in Chile. The Nigeria Supreme Court has quashed the conviction of Senator Peter Nwabushi and his sentencing to 7 years imprisonment for offenses of fraud and money laundering. The Apex Court ordered his immediate release from Ikoyi prisons in Lagos, where he is currently being held. In a judgment delivered on Friday, the Supreme Court also freed the two companies, Golden Touch Construction Project Limited and Swimming Electrical Limited, tried with him on a 2-count charge brought against them by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. In a split decision of 4-1, the Supreme Court set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal in Lagos, which had reversed their discharge and acquittal by a federal high court in Lagos. In a lead judgment by Justice Emmanuel Ajim, the Apex Court held that Nwabushi and the two companies were unjustly and maliciously prosecuted by the EFCC for committing no offenses known to law. It faulted the EFCC for subjecting them to needless criminal trial in relation to civil transactions. EFCC had accused Nwabushi and his companies of illegally acquiring a property named Guinea House on Marine Road in Apapa in Lagos State for 805 million naira. The property was said to belong to Delta State government. The anti-graft agency had claimed that part of the money paid for the property was transferred by Swimming Electrical Limited on behalf of Senator Nwabushi and Golden Touch Construction Project Limited, adding that the funds were believed to be proceeds of illegal activities. You're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. Still to come, we take a look at the story of why a 25-year-old woman was locked up in Jigawa for 5 years. We have details of this and many other stories coming up ahead after the break. You're welcome back to the News Hour on Trust TV. Here's a quick recap of our top stories at this hour. Troops have rescued 24 kidnapped victims in Zamfara State, killing 4 armed bandits. Traders say insecurity is responsible for tomato scarcity and price hike. To some of the day's other news, residents of Katsina are responding to the tree planting calls to mitigate the effects of climate change. The Emir of Katsina, Abdulmumin Kabir Usman, had during his Salah message asked the people to anticipate late arrival of rainfall and decline in agricultural production because of the effects of climate change. Abdullahi Yamadi tells us more.
Some individuals and groups such as Youth Against Deforestation and Environmental Degradation in Katsina are planting 1 million seedlings from the month of July to September 2023. This is coming few days after the Emir of Katsina cautioned the people of the state on the effects of climate change, which according to him is one of the major causes of all social and economic problems confronting the region. My respected subjects, there is a trouble around us, which is climate change. And the only remedy to it is massive planting of trees. Unfortunately, Many residents are busy destroying what remained of our bushes and forest reserves without a commensurate plan to plant another trees. Now, every one of us is feeling the effects, and it is a price we all must pay if nothing is done to stop it. I urge you to massively plant trees and nurture it to maturity. The Youth Against Deforestation is also poised to work with other relevant associations to change the narrative. They also warned that destruction of forests and tree felling could be consequential, calling for legislations to put a stop to the negative attitude.
So youth support against deforestation and environmental degradation, concern about indiscriminate cutting down trees planted by our forefathers. And I are appealing to people to imbibe the culture of planting more trees for the benefit of ecosystem and biodiversity to ensure habitable environment. And I call on people to include planting trees into their ceremonial activities like wedding, birthday, and naming ceremonies.
The Youth Against Deforestation and Environmental Degradation in Katsina State is nursing over 15 million seedlings annually for planting and distribution to clubs, associations, public and private groups free of charge. Experts agreed that to discourage indiscriminate felling of trees, governments and other stakeholders must make energy such as kerosene and cooking gas available and affordable to the Nigerian people. Abdullahi Ismayamadi, Trust Television News, Katsina.
Now, Sokoto State Governor Ahmed Aliyu on Thursday locked out personal aides and other workers at the government house for coming late to work. Abubakar Imam reports that the governor was not happy with the situation and therefore vowed to bring sanity back to the civil service. Here's the report.
Governor Ahmed Aliyu of Sokoto State on Thursday locked the gate of the government house against staff who came to the office late. The governor drove himself to the office around 8 a.m. using his personal vehicle. On arrival, Governor Aliyu went round some of the offices only to find out that majority of the staff are not in their respective offices and as such order for the immediate closure of the gate against the latecomers. Many senior staff, including some of the governor's aides, are affected by the decision as they are seen waiting outside the gate. The gate remained shut until around 1 p.m. when it was opened at the instance of the governor. Justifying his decision, Governor Aliyu says he believes in the principle of work or return our money. His members of the press crew were also locked out.
I
cannot grant you interview because you two are latecomer. This is not a joke. What is expected from any serious government is to pay their workers as at when due. When I came in, I paid 2 months' salaries within a space of 3 weeks. That was why I drove myself to the office, because my drivers had not reported for work as at 8 a.m. So I came and I did my work alone. But I will not let you know my next line of action because you are also a culprit. I promise the people of Sokoto State I will not betray their trust nor allow any public officer to do so. You either work or return people's money. Abubakar Awal Imam reporting for Trust TV.
I'll talk about leading by example. Now, it has been exactly 25 years since the death of the acclaimed winner of the June 12, 1993 presidential election, Moshood Kashimao Abiola. Family and friends gathered to pray and pay respect to the man. Victoria Tokolo reports that a special Fidel prayer held at his residence in Ikeja, Lagos State attracted people from far and near. Our report is presented from our studio.
MKO Abiola,
as he was popularly known, died on July 7, 1998, while in detention. The acclaimed winner of the 1993 presidential election was posthumously awarded the national honor of the Grand Commander of the Federal Republic, GCFR, by former President Muhammadu Buhari in 2018, and June 2nd became recognized as Democracy Day. On Friday, July 7th, family and friends of the late Moshood Abiola remember him for his contribution to national development and humanitarian causes. Speaking at late Abiola's tomb ground inside his residence located at Moshood Abiola Crescent, Ikeja, Lagos, Debo Adeniro of the Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership speaks on the sacrifices Abiola made for democracy.
Why things turned already the way it was because Abiola did not surrender his mandate to the military oligarchy. The military actually wanted him, after winning the election, to submit that mandate to them so that at the end of the day, it will be like a palace coup. Abiola knew that the people, loved him. Hope 93 was a mantra that renewed the hope of the people. Even then, transiting from military to civilian governance. People knew that Abiola was going to actualize the content of Hope 93 mantra. Then he said, farewell to poverty. People knew that Abiola it was who had been an indiscriminate philanthropist when he was alive.
All the families of MK Abiola, they were crying this morning. They were sad because they lost their father. But the man did not do his will before he died. Just died like that. I'm commanding to you today. Abiola did not do his will, did not arrange anything before he died. Every purpose just go like that. Because of Nigeria. Because of Nigerian democracy. I know him very well. I know MK Abiola very well. He's at lost. Totally lost. Till today. Something must be done for the MK Abiola's family.
One of the clerics who prayed for the family, Pastor Banji Ajayi, also speaks.
Let's do a very good struggle for Nigeria. And we are praying that his family and the other will be benefit, as our people says, Elijah Rawo and no says so to the people.
The family, friends, and associates, however, call on President Bola Tinubu to pronounce him as the winner of the 1993 presidential election to immortalize his democratic struggles.
Now, reactions have continued to trail the fake result controversy between the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board JAMB and a candidate, Mesoma Ejikeme. In Makurdi, residents are worried about the examination process, which they feel is susceptible to compromise, as well as Nigeria's over-reliance on paper qualification. From Benue State, Jimmy Azandi reports.
Since the alleged falsification of our result, there have been accusations and counter-accusations between the body and Mesoma before her eventual admission for falsifying the result. For Makurdi residents, the controversy has exposed a scale of societal decay, as well as an erosion of morals which require repair.
Because as far as I'm concerned, it's still an allegation, but it shows lapses in our system, nonetheless. Because when did they sit for the exam? Why has it taken so long for them to be revealing that this is a forged case?
What we are saying, that many people have collected the same results and they have sent to universities, and universities have checked the same results that are not sincere, and the JAMB has approved these results, and those people are in the university.
Others are concerned that JAMB has much more work to do to standardize its operations and maintain the integrity of the examination.
So JAMB on their own part also should standardize their operations, so that some of these results should not be a mystery. Once you have access, you should check, and confirming its authenticity shouldn't be an issue at all.
JAMB have to work on their system very well, because if people lost faith that this JAMB is no longer producing the right results, it's not telling the truth of academics knowledge, then automatically people will start doubting anything the institution does.
But I believe there are so many fake results that have gone unnoticed. And all JAMB has to do is they need to check their cyber security and maybe upgrade it and improve on certain areas to curtail issues like this.
They also said the controversy should be blamed on poor parenting and the over-reliance on paper qualification for assessing one's competence.
So the value system has eroded so that children are being encouraged also to go through this means. We are showing them that you need to find some smart way to excel. So parents have their own lapses too.
See somebody who forge a result, they cannot defend. They get big marks or high marks, and coming to proving it maybe in their field of specialization or what the result says, it becomes a problem. So I think there should be other means of assessing our capabilities rather than depending on paper results.
JAMB has confirmed that the candidate actually scored 249 and not the 362 she allegedly forged. Meanwhile, JAMB has withdrawn Mesoma Ejikemejoy's result and barred her from partaking JAMB examination for 3 years. Jimmy Azandi, Trust TV News, Makurdi.
In other news, the father and stepmother of a 25-year-old Jigawa woman locked up for 5 years have been released on bail following outcry over the incident. Ummi Garba was rescued by the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps following a formal complaint by human rights activists. Ali Rabiu, sends in this report, as presented from our studio.
This is the room where the woman, Ummi Garba, lives with her father and stepmother in the Takro area of Dutse, the Jigawa state capital. Her food was usually served on the bare floor of this room, where she was locked up for a long period until her rescue. Her 67-year-old father, Garba Musa, said the reason why they locked her up to stop her going outside was because she suffered from a mental problem. According to the father, people with low moral upbringing around the area were taking advantage of her mental problem to invite her to their rooms for sexual pleasure. Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Adamu Shehu, said men of the command arrested the father in May following a complaint lodged at the NSCDC State Command Headquarters by a human rights activist that he had locked up a 25-year-old lady in a room within the house for several years without being allowed to come out.
Currently, with the help of organization here, the civil society group and some good Samaritan at the quarters taking care of the young girl. She has been taken to hospital. As far as I'm concerned, or I know, I've been briefed about twice now. Because since those days, I may recall, I said the last time she was taken to the hospital was in 2018, almost 5 years ago, and nothing was done. Though the father also, to be fair to him, claimed that when they go to Kazaure, that's the psychiatric hospital in Kazaure, the same medication they are offering, so they resorted to buying the medication over the counter.
Director of Public Prosecution in the state, Hussein Abdullahi, said the parents were released on bail. Part of the bail condition requires that the father takes his daughter to Kazuri Mental Hospital and the NSCDC female officer be paying unscheduled visits to the house to see her condition.
She called me that there's a woman who was locked up by her father for, she said, as she said, for about 5 years or so. And she said that she reported the matter to the civil defense office. She wanted to hear from me what is my advice. So since you have taken the case to the civil defense force, let's see what the investigation will be.
The mother of the 25-year-old Ummi, separated from the father, has 6 children with Garba Musa. Ummi has 5 siblings from the same mother, who is now married to another man living in Oguma town in Kano State.
Rather unfortunate development. Well, you're watching the News Hour on Trust TV. We'll take a quick break. There will be more news after this. Join us again.
Keep a date with Housing Development Program, 6 p.m. every Sunday on Trust TV. Housing development is the first and pioneer housing program in Nigeria and by extension, Africa. It remains the authentic voice of the Nigerian housing and construction industry. Housing development is the only credible and specialized platform for seasoned professionals in the built industry, where quality and credible players in the real estate sector meet to interact, showcase, and analyze government policies. It is no doubt that hundreds of thousands of prospective Nigerians who desire to own their personal property have done so through the assistance of Housing Development Program in the last 10 years. If you are a stakeholder in the built industry, here is where you must be. We are authentic, credible, and supported by all the leading professionals in the built industry. Housing Development on Trust TV.
Welcome back to the news. Well, for today's briefing in business, let's join Chiamaka Nwafo for the latest.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has asked deposit money banks and other financial institutions in the country to increase monitoring of transactions with businesses and persons in and from Cameroon, Croatia, and Vietnam. This was according to a circular which was issued by Director, Financial Policy and Regulation, Chibuzo Ifobi. According to CBN, Nigerian banks and other financial institutions need to watch transactions with these countries because they had been recently placed on a grey list by the Financial Action Task Force. The Apex Bank also said that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Iran, and Myanmar remain on the list of high-risk jurisdictions which banks should closely monitor. The CBN ordered that Russia remains suspended from the FATF and banks need to stay vigilant and beware of any risk from transactions with the listed countries. Kenya's food import bill rises by 58.4% in the first quarter of 2023, with a deficit of 7.3 billion shillings between food exports and imports. Concerns mount as the value of food imports in Kenya accounts for nearly 92% of the revenue from food exports, raising worries about the country becoming a net food importer. Despite efforts to boost food production, Kenya faces challenges such as unpredictable rain patterns, small farm sizes, and high production costs, hindering progress and reducing reliance on food imports. According to the most recent statistics from the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics, the country shipped in more commodities such as rice, wheat, and processed foods, which led to an increase in imports from 50.6 billion shillings at the same time the previous year. And finally, emerging market stock hit a one-month low on Friday as bets of a high U.S. rate regime lasting for longer stifled risk appetite, while Hungary's forint dwindled ahead of S&P debt rating review and expectations of continued rate cuts, with a heavily weighted Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index losing 0.9% amid a wait for substantial economic support and cues on Sino-US relations. The MSCI Index of emerging market stocks shed 0.7% and was on track for a third straight weekly decline. The Hungarian forint lost 0.5% against the euro on expectations of continued gradual rate cuts sparked by a slowdown in headline and core inflation in June. Further, Czech Republic's industrial output rose by a higher than expected 1.4% year-on-year in May. And that's it on Business News. I am Chiamaka Nwafo.
From business to developments on the international scene, Kenyan police fired dozens of tear gas canisters into a crowd of thousands of opposition protesters on Friday as they attempted to march into the main business district of the capital to protest over tax hikes. Opposition leader Raila Odinga called for the protests to oppose the tax increment that have been imposed at a time when many are already struggling with high prices of basic commodities such as maize flour. Kenya's High Court ordered that the tax hikes be suspended, but the government has raised petrol prices, leading to further court challenges. Odinga addressed a crowd of about 2,000 supporters at an open-air ground just outside the main business district at lunchtime. He accused the government of failing to tackle the high cost of living in Kenya, poaching opposition lawmakers, and unilaterally reconstituting the Election Commission. He says they would then march to another park in the main business district, but police started firing tear gas canisters to stop the crowd, some of whom threw rocks back at the police before turning back. Television news channels also showed footage of police officers firing tear gas canisters to disperse protesters in the port city of Mombasa and other towns, including Kisii in the west. President William Ruto's government says the tax hikes expected to raise an extra 200 billion shillings, which is approximately $1.4 billion a year, are needed to help deal with the country's growing debt repayments and fund job creation initiatives. Let's take a look at developments in sports now. And Arsenal defender William Saliba has signed a new 4-year deal until 2027. The 22-year-old French centre-back became a key player for the Gunners last season after making his first team debut in August. He played 33 games, 27 in the Premier League, and scored 3 goals in all competitions. The Gunners spent much of the season at the top of the table before losing out to eventual champions Manchester City. Arsenal boss Mikel Arteta says, quote, "To have William extend his contract with us was something we have wanted to do for a long time. William proved last season just how good and how important he is to our squad." Real Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain were reportedly interested in Saliba. His breakthrough season followed 3 loan spells in French football, having initially joined the club from Saint Etienne for £27 million in 2019 when Unai Emery was Arsenal manager. Well, that's the size of our bulletin tonight. Many thanks for your time and company. Feel free to follow us across our social media platforms for more content. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Thank you for your time and company.
From the Daily Trust News Center, this is the News Hour.